Hi, my name is Andrew Dines, and I'm a painter. Um, I'm originally from Colorado, and although I've been making art my whole life, I really got serious about it about 8 years ago. When I was about 30, I decided to go back to school for art, even though I had originally, as an undergraduate, been a biology major many years ago. But after working a number of different fields, I wanted to get a little more serious about art and try and teach, so I actually ended up in this area in Albany for the graduate school program at UAlbany. So that's where I got my MFA, and I've been living here since then, teaching at the moment at Siena College. In terms of kind of my interest in what I paint, I started getting really interested in US foreign policy, but then more just the ideas of globalization and financialization, and in a way that kind of the origins of a lot of harm and suffering are really quite banal and technocratic, especially today. This painting, Griesa, is from a series of paintings specifically about Argentine debt restructuring. And this, Thomas Griesa was, he's no longer alive, but he was the US District Judge for the Southern District of New York. And he just happened to be the one kind of overseeing Argentine debt restructuring in 2014. And based on sort of a technical legal decision he made, there were really far-reaching consequences that I'm sure he wasn't entirely even aware of. And I won't get into the details now, you can certainly Google it, but basically he made a decision that sort of means that countries can't go bankrupt and can't restructure their debt anymore. So they're basically on the hook for years and years of corrupt administrations and poor money management. So you have a situation here where these so-called vulture funds came in and bought up a lot of this debt for pennies on the dollar, and they made almost 2,000% return on their money. And then at the same time, you have maybe 60% of the children in Argentina living in poverty. So that's kind of the sob story background, but what I liked is kind of the way that so much of this is done kind of in these centers of power in a neutral kind of technocratic way. And I started kind of trying to paint images and things that contrast the sort of lives of someone like this judge or hedge fund managers and politicians versus kind of people on the ground suffering the consequences. This one is a bit unusual though, because although I always rely on photographs to try and get source material, usually I'll kind of combine them into a composition that's a little bit more original. This one is just a straight up copy of a photograph that was available online. So what we see here is the judge, some of his security and entourage, just random people out on the street. And obviously kind of a very kind of uninteresting sort of journalistic photograph, not particularly interesting in terms of composition. And so that's kind of the starting point for me to then copy it and paint it and draw it and paint it in a way that's almost even more uninteresting and more gray. So in terms of kind of visual influence, for reasons that are probably never going to help me, I became very uninteresting in things that are ugly, that are obviously not colorful and not attractive in a sort of immediate visual sense. And I also became interested in the idea of, or the way it looks when you have kind of graphite or charcoal line drawings combined with really thin washes of paint, really kind of greasy, transparent washes of paint. And it kind of brought me to this, and I think, one of the common misconceptions about painting is that you kind of know where you're going, that you kind of have an image in your head, and then you sort of kind of work on the painting until it matches that image. But that's really not the case, and it's kind of ironic, even though I'm copying a photograph, that it really was not the case here, where I kind of had to give and take and try things, and it's always, I think, for a lot of painters, kind of a process of discovery for the artist, for myself, more than anything. So I tried different things. I tried adding colors. You can still see there's a lot more pink and red here. But every time I tried to add more color, more opacity, I had this feeling that it was just too much, and it needed to be kind of whitewashed in a very literal way and kind of taken back. So there's this series of kind of of wiping paint away, of painting back over it in kind of these transparent washes of kind of white and gray tones. And ultimately, I kind of do that battle back and forth until I get to a place, I think what Philip Guston called like a tolerable finality. Like it's kind of an ending that I can live with, right? Because otherwise you go back and do it another day and try something else. And in terms of just kind of the sort of visual effect of it, you know, some of my influences include people like Gerhard Richter, obviously Luc Tuymans, Leon Golub, Anselm Kiefer, people from the Leipzig school. But there's something about this sort of kind of dryness of this random photograph, the lack of color, but also sort of a kind of a ghostly haunting quality that I like. So I like to kind of try and get people to spend a little bit more time looking at an otherwise uninteresting image, and hopefully reflect some of that emotion I spoke to earlier is kind of present in the way that I decide to paint and depict and kind of attack these surfaces. Well, I'd just really like to thank the juror for including me in such great company, and the Albany Institute of History and Art for putting on this great show once again this year. Thank you.